I haven't heard anybody talk about hair as it relates to sustainability. Why is that?
Compost cotton and cornrows.
Welcome to the Compost Cotton and Cornrows podcast. I'm your host, Dominique Drakeford, and in this episode, I sit with Ciara Imani May, founder of Rebundle, to talk patented climate solutions with banana fiber braiding hair and why ownership in this $19 billion hair extension industry is the future of climate leadership. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for joining the pod. I'm so happy to be here in conversation with you. It's been years.
I know it's been too long.
It's been too long. I'ma just go ahead and give you this crown of the queen of banana fibers, banana hair fibers. I'ma just give you that crown.
Thank you. I'll wear it proudly.
Yes, wear that crown. But I'd like to kick off the conversation by having you define sustainability to sort of set the tone and the temperature for what we're about to get into today.
Okay. Define sustainability differently depending on the day and what's on my heart and what's on my mind. Today, sustainability is how we think about the interconnectedness of our lives and nature, the ecosystem around us, how we coexist peacefully, how we sustain ourselves, and how the ecosystem is able to sustain itself. Harmony. Describe it as harmony.
I love that definition. Yeah, just harmonious interconnection. I'm here for that. And as I'm thinking about Rebundle, I would imagine before it became this thriving company that it was a feeling, um, that I feel like there was probably a disconnect in harmony with with materials that was making your scalp itch. But beyond that, what was that feeling that you realized that you needed to create something for community, culture, industry, and science and agriculture at that?
Yeah, I like the way you asked that. It's a very different way than saying, how did you get started or why did you start
Yeah,
this?
I hate that shit.
What was, thank you, thank you. What was not in harmony? Okay, so I was a recent grad and just really absorbing all that I could around the circular economy, waste reduction, zero waste movement. It was just a topic that really fascinated me and I wanted to know more. So when I thought about how to apply some of those principles to my own life, my hair was one thing that stood out to me because it was where I was spending a lot of money, where I was going through a lot of products, where I hadn't really considered what is the relationship between my hair and my personal care routine and the environment, how that actually affects the environment, and all the way down to the fibers that I'm using for my braids. So I remember feeling very let's call it like alive. It was very much a light bulb moment, like, huh, this is not something that I've ever considered. I haven't heard anybody talk about hair as it relates to sustainability. Why is that? And what can be done about that? Because it's also causing itching, inflammation, flaking, etc. What about that material that's not good for the environment could also be not good for my body? So it was a hypothesis.
Um, what was that pivotal moment that was a catalyst in jump starting you to build upon what you hypothesized?
I started talking about it.
Mm,
So it went beyond just, oh, this is an idea that I written down or something that was in my head. I started asking people about it and they had a similar reaction as me of like, huh, I hadn't considered that. You know, what is synthetic hair really made out of and where does it go after we take it out? Obviously we put it in the trash, so it's not going to the best of places, but
right.
it really sparked curiosity in people, and that was a good sign for me to continue to pursue it, to try to answer some of those questions. And I was working at an HBCU at the time, and I worked in the science building, the STEM building.
Mhm.
And there was a professor that I was pretty cool with, and I just asked her casually, like, "Hey, I'm sort of looking into this thing. I I want to pursue it. I'm curious about what else synthetic hair could be made out of, or can you recycle synthetic hair? Can you actually cleanse it? Like, what can be done? And I don't remember her exact words, but she gave me the feeling of this idea is not safe here in this environment.
Mm,
And so I was like, oh, okay, so I don't need to talk to you about this anymore. And I worked at a university, so I was like, I don't think I need to work here anymore either. So that was part of the catalyst of deciding, like, if I actually want to pursue this, I need to leave this job.
that's real. That's real. And when you were building the brand, and we gonna get to the patents in a minute, because that's we gonna get there. But when you were building the brand, how did the supply chain evolve to, from the very beginning to figuring out all the things to where it is now?
Yes, it's more or less an open secret now because
Okay.
we made a documentary about it.
Right.
We've been touring the film across the country, and part of that work and that discovery was realizing that there was a very compelling story here about how you could switch from synthetic fibers, plastic fibers to a plant fiber, to regenerative materials, and who's behind that? Where is it being made? How is that different from how synthetic hair is currently made? There's so many layers there. So as I continue to talk to people about what we were doing, where we were making or sourcing the fiber from, it just sparked a lot of questions and conversation. And I just felt like let's put it into a movie. It turned into a movie because there was just so much to be said and so much that we wanted to share. And so that discovery actually started on YouTube. As I was researching what synthetic hair was made out of. What else could I use? Like, what are people using? Of course, that led me to YouTube and Reddit and et cetera, just to see what the people were saying. There was a YouTube video of a woman in somewhere in Kenya using sisal. And I thought that was super interesting because it was something that she had access to. I didn't necessarily have access to any fibrous materials that would meet the criteria, but I thought that was super interesting. So I just started trying to find more of these videos of like, well, what are people in every corner of the world using? Came across some ladies in Australia who were using banana fiber, but they were sourcing it from Uganda. So I was like, that's interesting. How does this work? How do you tap into this supply chain? And what I learned along the way is, one, I learned what a supply chain was. It wasn't something that I had built before, had experienced, foreign words to me. So as I was learning what a supply chain was and how mine needed to be established, I recognized that getting samples from some of these rural communities was step one. Like, I needed to know what's possible, and then also imagine what could be, because none of it was perfect. It wasn't, I went through some back channels, WhatsApp and such to even get these samples, some
Mhm.
real innovative ways to even get my hands on the material. I don't even remember some of the things I was doing, but that wasn't gonna that wasn't gonna be a commercially scalable way of doing business. But going through those steps and that process helped me realize that, well, the fiber itself is of good quality. It's a good candidate, but there's no business around it. So how do we put a business around the fiber procurement so that I can actually build a supply chain to support this $19 billion industry that is hair
Hair.
extensions?
Mhm. Would you say that that's one of the biggest challenges with taking banana stem fibers and, how it behaves and manipulating it so that it feels like, braiding hair from the texture, the length, color, style, all those things. What would you say is sort of that biggest challenge from a science and innovation point of view? Or was it simply the communication to even get samples?
No, the communication wasn't as difficult as figuring out the formulation. I'm also non-technical, so I was describing to people what I wanted and what my vision was, but I had to also go through a lot of different types of subject matter experts to have them manipulate the fiber the way I needed it to. So, altering the texture, altering the color, making sure that the tensile strength was was strong enough, um, describing issues that I was noticing, like shedding or breakage
Yeah.
or inconsistencies. Like mechanically, how do we solve for that? And so being able to immerse myself into this work and into this world to articulate to these people who maybe they knew something about dye chemistry, but maybe they'd never had any experience with banana fiber, collaborating with them to be like, this is what I think is possible. This is what I've seen. This is what I want to see happen. How do we make that a reality? Like, what do we need to actually do to make that a reality? So, it was the most painful part of the process. I'm also a perfectionist, so I was
Mm,
always chasing, like, um, not just good enough, but, like, how do we get this perfect? And it's
premium,
really hard
yeah.
to do with, a physical product. It was also in a time, 2021, where, capital was being allocated differently. People's attention and time were being spent differently.
Yeah.
We're still in a pandemic. It's just a totally different time. So with all those things combined, we were able to capitalize on a moment when I just had the world's attention. I had our community's attention on this problem that many of us were already familiar with, but we didn't really have a solution. So to be able to present a solution, even when it was just an idea, uh, was was catalytic for the community, and that actually put a lot of pressure on me and on the team I had at that time because we just didn't have. I mean, I feel like it was all eyes on us from the beginning.
Yeah.
There's so much that we were still figuring out because everything was so new.
Yeah.
So that's sorta how it evolved, and so being able to get the product into the market, get that initial feedback, then raise capital, then go back and say, "Alright, if we're actually gonna do this, then I need XYZ. We need to be able to produce in these quantities. I need this amount of space." All that came, like, after we'd initially launched.
Yeah. Well, shout out to you for being a perfectionist because if my memory serves me correctly, and I've been following the brand for quite some time, the quality assurance bit seems like it was a priority, and I feel like I remember there was a point where, there was an announcement like, it's better. We getting it together, we listen, we learn, and we elevated it. And so shout out to you for that because I think sometimes in the sustainability space, um you could have bits and pieces of sustainability and you're like, "You know what? It already got the title, we're good," as opposed to taking some steps back and how do we make it better, whether it's transparency, whether it's material, whether it's cultural identity, whether it is just, it just seems like y'all were listening and figuring it out through the, expanded process and getting to this point where it's A1. So shout out to you
Yeah,
for that.
yeah. Had to be done. There are a number of mistakes that were made, but I think what rang true from the beginning is like, "Hey, we're trying to do something completely different. We've only known hair extensions in 2 types, synthetic and or plastic and human.
Mhm.
I think there's a world in which a third option could exist. I think
Mhm.
this is what it should cost. I think this is how it should look and feel based on the natural properties. These are the advantages. Here are some of the other things that we're looking to refine further." So I think through our marketing and our branding, we presented it as this is the first of its kind
Yeah.
in this way because while we didn't invent the idea of braiding hair, or excuse me, banana fiber as braiding hair, it
Right.
wasn't commercially scalable.
Right.
So you can make something in a beaker and it might be fantastic, but can I make that at scale and it
Right.
still be fantastic? Can I source and um, QC all the raw materials that come
Mhm.
in? Because the first batch of fiber we got, first and second batch, were terrible. So we had to figure out like how do we standardize that? Because I can't produce good end product if my raw material brittle, wet, molded, inconsistent in color, inconsistent in length. Like, but that wasn't the work that was being done at that stage. Uh, it wasn't an area of study that really could just like go online and buy you some high quality banana fiber. Wasn't there.
That part.
So there's a lot that went into the early days of getting to a point where we could make multiple batches and they turn out the same.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's where the legacy lives in what you're doing. And it brings me to, you know, your patent for plant-based hair. One thing that I was thinking of was just historically how Black inventors in particular, I feel like they remain significantly underrepresented in whether it's in patent filing or just holding patents relative to, other folks, whether it's in science or entrepreneurship or engineering, knowing that we innovate and invent so much. What did it mean culturally to have this patent for plant-based hair?
So, yeah. So one of my superpowers, one of my strengths is I'm extremely resourceful. And so if there's something that I need to pay for, I'm going to figure out how that can be paid for or what resources exist that I can tap into, so that I'm not coming out of pocket for my own money or the money that I just got. What else is out there? So
Right.
when we were headquartered in St. Louis, there was a program out of SLU, St. Louis University,
Mhm.
where they offered pro bono legal services. Like they worked with a couple of law firms. They would offer pro bono legal services to startups and businesses under a certain revenue and headcount to help those companies file for patents. And we took advantage of that because we knew that what we were building was novel and patent worthy, but we need to make sure we follow the steps so that y- we don't mess up because you can do things out of order and then you can't file for a patent. But so we made sure we listened to the advice of the attorneys and documented everything and made sure everyone who contributed at the invention level was given proper credit. So that we had two. We did one in 2021 that we let expire, and then we did another one in 2022, and that's the one that was granted. And so, um, what we were able to articulate to the reviewer, person who works at the USPTO who reviews the patents, what we were able to articulate is this material is being used for this end product in a way that hasn't been done before in this country using these inputs, and these are all the claims that it covers. And that reviewer agreed with us. And so um, I think as a Black woman, and the three inventors on the patent were all Black women, we were able to see a problem, come up with a solution, and describe in detail why the solution was novel and what information we took, what our were our sources, to say that this is something that we think for the next 20 years we should own. Well, technically, Rebundle owns the patent, but we believe that this is new and novel enough that it's worth protecting. And I think to your earlier point about Black women not being represented in this arena, that may happen for a few reasons. Lawyers are expensive. So if you don't have access to resources that can help offset that cost, so we didn't pay for any of the work that they did to file the patent. We only paid the filing fee, which was like, it could have been like $100 or something like that.
Right.
That was for the first one. Now, anything after that, because you do continuations. There are comments back and forth.
Mhm.
We did a PCT meaning we applied the same patent in other countries. None of that was free, but the initial filing, the initial work was covered, and so that could be one main reason, having the capital and resources to actually get that work done. But also because we're a small company. I wasn't up against like a major corporation who had conveniently left us out of the patent filing process, the invention right. And so I think for the three of us, uh, myself, Felicia Patton, my director of product, and Cynthia Chappell, who I had hired as a consultant early on, what what we all just agreed on was that there's something interesting here, and it's worth protecting. And we all had to be cooperative to submit all the paperwork. It's a lot of paperwork to say that we want to pursue this. So that's more or less how it went.
Yeah, and I'm honestly very ignorant when it comes to patents. What does that mean in terms of IP and the future of the business from a global scale?
So it is an asset to the company. It means that for the next 20 years, no one can make, sell, do anything with banana fiber in the hair extensions category in the US and wherever else, whatever other countries the patent is granted in. And because
Mhm.
we did the first application filing in the States, we get the same priority date in the other countries should it be granted. All of those are under review right now. So that basically means no one else can compete with us in this category, meaning for banana fibers. So if anyone wants to enter into the business, they have to go through us. If anyone is currently in the business, you know, they're supposed to go through us, but that's topic for
Yeah,
another
yeah, yeah,
day.
yeah, 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 for sure. And to be real, I feel like I'm seeing a lot of quote unquote non-toxic Black-owned hair
Yeah.
Chinese brands emerging. Does that
Hmm.
feel inspiring? I'm assuming they not trying to use your IP, but does that feel inspiring that there feels like this revolution, especially for Black women's health, our identity and the environment?
It's definitely validating. So
Mhm.
some of the one of the companies that I came across early on in my research was uh, Latched and Hooked,
Yeah.
founded by Tiffany Gatlin.
Yep.
And I thought what she was doing was important and interesting, but I had already decided that I didn't want to touch plastic hair at all. I didn't feel like that was solving the problem
Yeah.
enough. And so as the years have gone by, I've been working on this for 6 years. I've, of course, seen some of the other brands that have come up, some who are innovating with banana fibers as well, some who started around the same time as we did. But I think what we continue to do well is to focus on
Yeah.
the science of how the product interacts with our scalps and how that product interacts with the environment, two different types of science, but two very relevant parts.
Yeah.
Um, of scientific innovation. So, while yes, there are some brands in the market that are advertising as ACV rinsed or Kanekalon free, PVC free,
Mm.
that may be true. I don't know. It's not my business. But I think what we hold true, what we think is important is for um, these products in this category, because they're touching the skin,
Yeah.
to be clinically tested
Yep.
and to be um, made from regenerative materials, because I, from the jump, didn't think that this problem that I identified could be solved with one or the other. It had to be both.
Yeah. And I'm glad you lifted that up too, because you know, sustainable fashion is my wheelhouse, and something that I did quite often was invest in brands that, recycled plastic brands, right?
Hmm.
And for a while, and in the beginning stages, I'm like, "Oh, this is cool, this is great," but it's still plastic.
Hmm.
Right? It's still touching my skin. The innovation is great, but I'm somebody who has highly sensitive skin, and so I think that there is an important lane for that, but I love the fact that you're focusing on better materials for the health and wellness of us as well as the planet, and so
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you for that and the brand for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a lane for all of it, and there's
Absolutely, and this was no
some
shade, I'm
innovation that
just
can come
saying.
out of it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 for sure.
It wasn't my vision.
Right,
So I'm sticking with
100%.
my vision.
100%, 100%. And do you feel like, your story, and it's dope that you have the movie, the doc, but I also see y'all in a bigger, um, storytelling space for as part of this lineage of Black hair. Like, I see you
Mhm.
part of an extension of the movement. Do you feel ooh, nose ring falling out? Look. Do you do you feel like you're part of the Black hair movement in that sense?
For sure, for sure. I had the chance to attend, the Bronner Brothers Icon Awards when I was in Atlanta,
Nice.
and it was the first one that they had, and there's so many people in the room, so many professional stylists and people in the industry, many of whom I didn't know,
Mhm.
but I did feel, very grateful to be invited into these spaces because, um, I just think there's something so special about the hair industry
Mm.
and the value that has been created by us and the opportunity to not just be a consumer, but to be an owner, to be an employer, to be a real stakeholder in it.
Yeah. Ooh,
And I
yes.
think, what we saw in the late 2000s, so like '06, '07, '08, '09, we saw an emergence of Black-owned hair care brands, so what I just call wet hair products, so your curls, your mousses, your gels, etcetera, how
Mhm.
YouTube enabled a lot of that growth, and now in the 2020s, we're seeing innovation in hair extensions and a change of ownership, a change of guard. Um, and I think that we've had a lot to do with that shift in narrative. Um, and thankfully, that change of guard is being validated with scientific research and studies that say Black women face a higher exposure to toxic chemicals in their personal care and hair care products. Who's making those products?
Mhm.
And, could they be made differently? Could they be made better? Typically, that type of innovation starts with people who experience the problem firsthand, and I think that's what we're seeing in the hair extensions industry.
Yeah. And shit, even beyond that, I almost see and knowing that as a leader, you've probably been in these spaces, in these rooms as well, but beyond just Black hair movement and hair care movement, sustainable and environmental innovation spaces, like, at large, I feel like you should be on a pedestal in these spaces as well.
I'm not. I
You
wouldn't say I wouldn't I agree that I probably should be,
Yeah.
but the reality is I'm not. It's actually one of my biggest gripes with this work. Um Our biggest investor and biggest supporter financially and strategically is an investment firm that focuses on the circular economy and
Mm.
sustainability, all that jazz.
Right, right, right.
So that's like I'm grateful to have their support. But when it comes to sustainability at large, some of the feedback that I've gotten, because I'm one to ask for feedback. You don't have to tell me why. If you're rejecting me or accepting me, I do wanna know why.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. But some of the programs I've applied for or some of the rooms I've been in and, I'm like, people don't really consider us climate. And there's always like a knee-jerk reaction like, "Well, why not? Well, you're definitely climate." I'm like, "Well, it's either the way I'm describing it and positioning it or it's the way it's being received, where
Mm,
it's too niche or it's not scalable enough or some other jazz that I just don't agree with. I don't believe is true because what I see in the environmental space, in the climate space
mhm.
is companies who have these pie in the sky ideas and like we're going to bring the CO2 levels down by some number,
Yep,
right?
2050 is a number I see all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Whether or not they can do that, measure that, and afford to do that, I think is a totally separate thing.
That part, that
So
part.
what I'm doing, what I'm describing is tangible,
Yep,
quantifiable,
yep,
evident, and can be researched.
yep.
Why is that not climate?
Why is that not climate? That's a real that honestly, that's a real roundtable discussion. For real, for real. I think that I mean, we're still having these rich conversations about Black identity and climate as it is, let alone put Black hair into the mix. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
it's still an uphill battle, but part of what is pivotal is making sure folks like you are centered as climate leaders, period. And so that's partially my focus, honestly.
Yeah,
Partially
I
my focus
appreciate that.
for real. Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Um, do you actually see yourself as a Black inventor or engineer?
So I never thought about it.
Mm,
I guess technically, yes. Not an
okay,
engineer. I'm not an engineer by trade.
okay.
What I'm good at is researching, finding resources, connecting dots, and telling people what to do.
Yeah, come on,
When it
boss.
comes yeah, when it comes to engineering, that's the role I played.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess yes, anecdotally, yes, I'm a Black inventor. But I don't think about that's not the title that I attribute to my work the most. I think the title that feels most natural to me is curious problem solver.
mm. I wonder if positionality, using that language, or leader in technology, especially since we are transitioning into AI and tech and all of that,
Yeah.
um, inventor, innovator, technology expert is a
Yeah,
direction you should go in. Like,
you might be right. Yeah.
I'm no expert in the field, but I'm just saying, this is technology, and technology, if we're thinking about futurism, technology is the heartbeat of conversation.
You're
Um,
right. You're absolutely right. I
I'm
did
just
name the technology.
Yeah, but you gotta
Engineer
what's your
fiber, I
catch?
named that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm gonna change my title on LinkedIn after this.
Hey, talk about it. Nah, that's real, that's real. No, I see you as, a tech specialist easily, easily, and like you said, it's measurable. You have qualitative, quantitative data, ethnographic data.
Mhm.
I
You're
mean,
right, you're right.
okay. So yeah, what I guess to circulate this, what would you advise other Black inventors to do in terms of having a paradigm shift in how they approach their inventions or innovations in the sustainability space across industry, whether it's beauty, fashion, wellness, etc.?
Yeah. Well, you just raised an interesting point. Do I consider myself a Black inventor? Before this conversation, I hadn't thought about it. So I think claiming that is important, is step one. Um, I think it goes without saying protecting your IP is important, but also you got to have something to protect.
Yeah.
I
Mm,
I think directionally understanding the difference between startup and small business, novel versus not novel, maybe a word for that, but something that's not novel. And then surrounding yourself with the right experts that can help you delineate between the
right.
two. This is novel, this is not novel. Some technology exists already. It may be underutilized or it may not be utilized. It may be used in a different application. And there's a level of novelty there. There's still some innovation there. And one is not better than the other. But I think what you do have to be, as a Black inventor, what you do have to be cognizant of is how do I solve a problem in a way that hasn't been done before? And then you'll go down the path of whether or not this is brand new technology or this is existing technology being used in a different application in a different way. And both are great.
Right. You know what? Something came to mind because I know that you started storytelling sort of before you formalized everything. Do you think that there is a pain point in that in terms of IP stealing, in terms of appropriation? Like, do you feel like you should do a lot more behind closed doors before you start telling the world, especially now in today's tech space, and social media space, telling the world your ideas and sort of these formulas and things of that nature?
I'd definitely seen some of our copy used by other people,
Mhm.
other brands.
Mhm.
some of it you can copyright, some of it you can't. Something is just the way I speak. Maybe somebody liked the way I said that and they
Yeah.
want to use it too.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, but I think it depends on the person. I'm a very open and transparent person. At least I think I am. I think I come
Mhm.
across that way. At least that's how I think my brand presents. Like, this is what it is, this is what it ain't. Um, and so that served me in Rebundle. It may not serve every founder to be like on the front lines doing talks, making movies. Like that may not be everybody's path. And
Right.
I think it depends on the person to decide whether or not how much of this information you should share, but also working with counsel to be like, this is
Mm.
something that you need to keep to yourself
Yeah.
for XY reason, for competitive advantage, or
Yeah.
until the patent has been filed, or things that I learned along the way that, like, okay, we can't do that because it hasn't been submitted yet. Or one of the very first things I did was trademark Rebundle, but there are also slogans that we use. And I'm like, should I trademark those? Because our slogans are being copied. There's only so many ways that you can say the same thing. So, I also can't be so anal about other brands using similar language, but
Yeah.
you know where you got it from.
Yeah, 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 100%, 100%. So, long story short, get an attorney.
Get an attorney. Yes. Get an attorney. Yes. That's my advice.
That's your advice. I'm like, all right, legal counsel, get an attorney, get a lawyer,
Legal counsel and have some discernment.
have some discernment. That's real. That's real. That's real. No, that's actually quite sound advice. Um, we have to protect our cultural IP, and we are leaders in sustainability, whether the mainstream industry wants to call us that or not. And I think that it's critical that we, which you said earlier, we not only name it, but we protect it, right? And so I love that you said that in so many words.
Yeah, in so many words.
Yeah, yes, yes. No, but this is great. Thank you so much for just your genius in science and innovation, and just how you have been able to build this empire that centers our identity as well as climate justice. And I'm really hoping that you continue to expand. Actually, speaking of expand, what's the future? What's the future look like for you? What's the expansion 2030, 40?
The future is being written as we speak.
Mhm.
Part of my work this year has been around replicating our supply chain model. So it's like a franchise model.
Franchising, yes.
How do I produce this product wherever bananas grow? So how do I take that from Uganda and put it in Kenya, put it in
Mm,
Ghana, put it in Nigeria, put it in Barbados, etc. So um, that is where our focus is, recreating this formula that we have more or less perfected, but also as a brand, making sure that we keep science and innovation at the forefront, because there are a multitude of products that should exist, that could exist, that could replace some of the products that are harmful to us. And
yeah,
we're leaning on the research to dictate what is the most obvious opportunity. Like braiding hair was the most obvious opportunity for me, but what's next? What's up with
yeah,
human hair? What human hair
yeah,
got going on? Can we
yeah,
replace
word.
that as well? What about the styling products that we use to install braids, etc.?
Mm,
Let's make sure we're keeping those things in mind. So I think as a company, my primary focus is financially sound, to be in
yeah,
a great place financially so that we can continue this work. And then thinking about how we leverage the research and the data to dictate where science innovation will take the company next.
drop. Mogul energy. Okay, let me stop cursing. Mogul energy. No, I love that for you. I love that for your brand. I love that for us. And I love that for the future of sustainability and environmentalism. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so, so, so much. So appreciative. And before we close, I want to end with something that we are calling the sustainability soundtrack, because I think it's really critical to tap into how we feel as we're building things. So I have a few rapid fire questions for you. Easy
Okay.
peasy. What song is bringing you joy right now?
Oh my gosh, this is gonna sound horrible. I'm not really listening to music right now. Hold on,
Silence.
let me see. Actually, silence. Silence.
Expect that. I'm here for that answer.
Things
I'm
have been
here for that.
quiet,
The world is
and I'm
noisy,
loving it.
so
The world is so noisy. Yes, silence.
I'm here for that. Well, shit, is every answer about to be silence? Okay.
No,
What
no.
song helps you heal or decompress when life feels heavy? Silence?
Speed by Frank Ocean.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. And lastly, what song to you sounds like sustainability?
Sounds like sustainability. Well,
Mhm.
the one that comes to mind most immediately is Africa by D'Angelo.
Come on, RIP to the GOAT.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here for this. I'm here for this.
Yeah.
I
It's a
don't
good
know how
song.
Imma
It's a good
put silence
album.
on the soundtrack. I gotta figure out
Crickets.
a crickets. Okay, okay, I'm here for that. Gotta get real creative. Gotta get in my creative Ciara bag. You feel me? Let me get innovative. Okay. No, but that's dope. And how can everybody stay connected with you, watch the doc, and just continue to follow all the dope things that you're doing? You don't got a Netflix deal yet?
No, we don't have a Netflix deal yet.
Okay. Alright, just
Not
checking.
not yet, but after we're done with the screenings, then we will decide what to do with the project next, how to make it more widely available to everyone. Those are the two ways you can connect with us IRL and then digitally Instagram, TikTok, everywhere else, rebundle.co.
I know that's right. Thank you so much for your time and energy,
Yes,
y'all.
thank you, Dom.
She has an investor meeting, so Imma let her go. You feel me?
Thank you.
Mogul shit. Okay. Thank you so much, and that's a wrap.
Thanks, my girl.
If this conversation expanded how you see beauty, climate, and ownership, subscribe and share this episode and support Black women building the future we all depend on. See you next time.
Composting cotton and cornrows.
We've turned nothing to gold since the birth of our soul. It's ingrained in our room. Black is more than flesh and bone, planted deep in our code, and we bear the fruit. Yeah, they wonder how our stride's so bold, and our pride stone cold after all we've been through. Rich as the texture of our crown. We pass it on to the youth.